There are people all over this country that travel hundreds, maybe even thousands of miles to race radio controlled race cars. And we're in a place that specializes in that. And we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's near Sandy Lake up in Mercer County here in western Pennsylvania. And there's a place called Big Dog RC, Big Dog Radio Controlled. John Raskob is the owner. He and his wife run this place. And we were surprised to find out, John, that you get customers coming from all over.
Yeah, we've had customers from a dozen states and Canada that come right here outside of Sandy Lake to race their model cars.
Now tell us about the model cars. Just what are they and how big are they compared to the regular scale?
Well, anywhere from fifth scale, which is pretty big, about a 3-foot car, down to 1/24th scale, which could fit in the palm of your hand. But the 1/10th scale are the most popular.
Now these are radio controlled, so how elaborate is the whole system?
It's a pretty advanced system. The driver holds a controller in their hand and control the throttle and the brakes and the steering while the car is out racing on the track.
And they race just for time, or do they compete with other racers?
Well, they compete. There's time trials, just like a full-size car race, where they get their lap times, and then they have a main event where they're going head-to-head to see who the winner is.
Let's talk about the cars themselves. The ones right behind us are pretty large. These are what, 1/5 scale, did you say?
Yeah, these are about the largest you'll see, 1/5 scale. And they go down from there. And again, the 1/10th scale are the most popular.
1/10th scale. That means they're exact replicas of cars, but only 1/10th the size. What would that car cost?
You can get started in RC car racing for under $200 for everything you need. And then, of course, people spend a lot more than that. It's like any other hobby. You can do it just for fun, or you can do it seriously.
When they start with a 1/10th car, do sometimes the same people build up to larger cars?
Yep, larger or smaller. And they might have two-wheel drive and get four-wheel drive. They might have a truck and then go to a buggy, or they run the dirt oval racing and then go to the off-road racing. So it's pretty versatile.
Now, you've got kind of complex here. We can see some of it behind us right now. You've got parts and cars and all kinds of paraphernalia. You also have some tracks here where people actually come to run their cars, don't you?
That's exactly right. There's over a dozen manufacturers. It's kind of like Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, all in one place. We have 3 indoor tracks, 2 outdoor tracks, and we do all the service and repair along with the parts and the sales.
John, why did you end up here between Sandy Lake and Mercer?
Well, we used to travel back and forth from Arizona and played with model cars out there. And there's actually places like this because it's so hot in the summer, you can't go out and drive your RC car when it's 110 degrees. And around here, there were people that had tracks, like out in a cornfield or in an old warehouse, but nothing very family friendly. And so over a period of about 2 years, this all came together.
John, when people go to Mercer Speedway or other speedways around the area, Lernerville down in the Butler area, are these the same people who come up here to run these model cars?
Yep, it's the competition is just as close. The cars are actually scale speeds even faster, because you figure a 10th scale car going 40 miles an hour, that's like a full-size car going 400 miles an hour. And you get 8 or 10 of those on the track at one time. The action is amazing. And so spectators are free. We get a lot of people come out and watch. There's actual guys that drive full-size race cars in the summertime that have a model painted up, and they race that all winter.
Now, I understand that when a lot of people go to these big car races at Lernerville and Mercer Speedway, among others, that a lot of the joy is watching them crash. Yeah. Is it the same thing with these little cars?
There's a lot more crashing with the little cars. The nice thing, though, is normally you just flip them over and they keep going. So nobody gets hurt. You don't have any long caution periods. The cars go right back on their wheels, and 9 times out of 10, they keep right on going, right on racing.
Does it take a long time to learn how to operate one of these?
No, not at all. In fact, we could maybe have you drive one later.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the mechanics of these cars. They're scale models of the bigger cars, but I don't see any gasoline engines here. What do they run on, and how does it work?
Yeah, most today are electric. Now they still are gas ones out there and nitromethane powered, and we run those in the summertime outdoors. But yeah, the electricity powered ones are far superior now as far as speed. The battery life now, you can get an hour of runtime out of a battery, so they've kind of surpassed the gasoline powered ones.
Now, everything's miniature. Everything is very, very tiny. It seems like they're high-tech machines.
They are. Yeah, the electronics in there is pretty high-tech, and the battery technology, lithium polymer batteries, have really come a long way. The brushless motors, so they don't have maintenance like the old electric motors, so it's everything's pretty high-tech.
Now, when they run these things, I know there are a lot of speed trials where people are racing against others. How do you measure the speed?
Well, we have a timing system that times the cars down to 1,000th of a second. And so each car carries a transponder, which sends out a signal. There's an electronic loop in the track that picks up that signal every time they go by. And so every car is scored down to 1,000th of a second, so we know what place they're in, how fast their laps are, and then every driver has those results at the end of each event.
John, you had said you were in Arizona where you were first attracted to these kind of cars and this kind of an operation. What made you decide to come here to this very spot?
Well, my wife was born and raised in western Pennsylvania, and so we had come back because she has a lot of family here. And we have 4 kids, and we all drive the RC cars. And out there, we had raced at some of the tracks and found that there just wasn't a lot of family-friendly things out here to do, especially in the wintertime. And again, over about a 2-year period, it kind of came together, and it's worked out really well.
So this started what year?
2011 is when we opened our doors.
Was it an immediate hit? Did people know that it was even here?
Well, we did a lot of radio advertising to get the word out, and from day one, we had dozens of people coming, and it still amazes me today. It'll be standing room only on a Saturday night with people of all ages, kids as young as 5, all the way up to guys in their 70s that race the cars.
You don't charge admission, do you?
Oh, it's free for spectators, so it's cheap entertainment.
So if somebody wants to get started in this hobby, how would they start? What do they have to buy? What do they have to know?
Well, we recommend come out and watch some of the racing and see what you like. You might like a dirt sprint car, just like the bigger racetracks, or you might like an off-road car, which goes over the jumps and flies in the air. And then, again, for under $200, you can get everything you need to get started.
When somebody comes out here the first time, are they competing against somebody to start with?
No, we have just open practice days where you can come and just play with your car and drive around, get familiar with it. And then it's up to you if you want to compete. We do have a sportsman class for new people, so you don't have to compete against the fast guys if you don't want to.
I understand that you interested the Guinness Book of Records people. Somehow you broke some kind of a record here. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, at our grand opening 2011, we saw that there was a Guinness World Record for the longest RC car jump, and it was held in Germany. It was 86 feet. We thought that might be a good thing to try to attempt at our grand opening, so we built a huge ramp, and everybody got excited about trying it. And that was part of our grand opening celebration.
Now, you say a jump. Just what does that consist of? How far do they have to go? How high do they have to jump? And what happens after that?
Well, we had a big wood ramp. Actually, we had 2 ramps. And so the drivers would line up about a 200-foot runway to go up the jump. And the key thing with the Guinness record is they had to land on all 4 wheels and drive away. So you couldn't just fly through the air and wreck. It had to be a clean landing and drive away.
How fast does a car have to go to jump that far and that high?
We calculated they were somewhere around 60 miles an hour when they left the ramp.
60 miles an hour with a car this size would be the equivalent to how fast with a standard size car?
Yeah, it was a 10th scale car that broke the record. And
so that would be 600 miles an hour?
That'd be like a regular car going 600 miles an hour over a ramp. And we did break the record, 112 feet. It was a gentleman out of Oil City, Pennsylvania. there are actually several people that easily broke the record, but he did the best. And so we do have the Guinness certificate here on display at the store.
Now, when somebody comes in here, it looks like more than cars. You've got lots of stuff hanging from the walls and hanging from the ceiling. What do you have here?
Yeah, it's mostly RC cars and trucks, but there's also boats, airplanes, quadcopters, and drones. We even have a RC-powered surfboard with a guy standing on it. So anything in real life, they probably make a model of it that you can control from a controller standing in one spot.
I saw there was a regular full-size old car back there. What's that?
That's a 1929 Model A Ford. We just have it on display in the shop. A couple months ago, we had a sprint car on display. So it seems like every other week we're changing things around to keep it interesting. And so we'll bring things in to put on display.
When somebody comes out here, how much time do they spend?
People walk in the door and they're amazed. And we have people that are here at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, wait until we open, and they're still here 10, 11 o'clock at night after the racing is done, telling us not to turn the lights off. So it's
So you must have some food available then?
Oh, yeah. We have a fully licensed kitchen, sell hot dogs, hamburgers, pizza, chicken, and we've been told we have the best French fries in Western Pennsylvania, too. So
Now, you have some other robot equipment, something involving human beings, or at least robots that look like human beings?
Yeah, well, most of the high schools compete annually with a robot competition. And so every year, about March, all the high school students start coming in here to buy electronics for their robots, and they wanted us to do it here. So we actually built a miniature BattleBot robot cage, and we battle 1-pound robots. And they're in a cage that's polycarbonate plastic, so when they get exploded apart, the parts don't come back and hit you. But again, it's radio controlled, and you build your own robot, you put it in the ring, and see who comes out ahead.
I understand you have a lot of parties out here, birthday parties and other events?
Yeah, we do birthday parties where every child will get an RC car, and we'll set up a party room, and so they get to drive the cars out there and then celebrate the birthday. We do business events where a business will bring their employees over and have racing. We even have people that will rent the track out just for private use.
Are you surprised that in these years since you started this business here, that it's gone to the point to where it is?
I am. It's still amazing me on Saturday how we'll have 150 drivers from 4 states just on an average Saturday, and the parking lot's full. And everybody has fun. It's a lot of fun. Some people, it's mom, dad, brother, sister. They all have cars. They have them painted alike. They have T-shirts, so it's like a little race team, and it's a family event that they can enjoy together.
Well, John, a lot of people now, having watched you and having you explain what's going on here, want to know more. They want to know, first of all, where you are, how to get here, and also some more information. You have a website?
Yeah, it's bigdogrc.com. Easy to remember. And we're just off Interstate 79, north of 80. And I recommend come on out on a Saturday afternoon. It's free for spectators. You can see the racing action. And if you like to try it, maybe rent a car and try it. And it's great for kids because it gets them off the video games. They learn how to work with their hands. They learn how to use tools and the camaraderie with the other drivers and sportsmanship. So it's much better than sitting at home playing a video game.
John, good to talk to you. Thanks for having us out.
Thank you very much.
John Raskop, he is here at the Big Dog RC here near Sandy Lake, just off Route 79 in Mercer County. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.
The history, the sports, the stories, the events. Armstrong Local Programming puts the focus on our community. Watch to learn about new events or discover the rich history of our area. You can find local programming on your local programming channel and on demand. Want even more? Subscribe to the Armstrong One Wire channel on YouTube. It's our town all the time with Armstrong Local Programming. One Wire, infinite possibilities.
Do you want to know what time it is? Well, I know a guy who can tell you the time really accurately. He's here in Mercer, Pennsylvania. His name is Doran Mace, and he operates the Knoll Clock Shop. In this shop today, he has thousands of clock movements and hundreds of clocks, and people come here or send clocks here from all over the country. So, Doran, why is it that you're one of the few people that does this? Why do they come here rather than someplace closer to where they live?
Well, I can tell you it's reputation. We've been doing this for 36 years. We advertise ourselves very well, and we have a good following. But it's how you treat your customers. It's how you want to be treated. That's how you treat the people that are here. We've had quite a bit of experience. We continually take courses to expand our knowledge, and we're very truthful with people.
Now, why can't everybody else that says they can repair clocks do it as well as you can? Is there some special training or experience that you have?
The experience would be, I started this when I was 6 years old, and I just wanted to do this. You have to have a love to do these things. You have to have a knowledge of what's going on, but you really have to love what you're doing. You have to understand antiques. You have to understand metallurgy. You have to understand everything, the history that's behind everything. So you grow to do it. This is not just a job. This is a calling. This is what I'm meant to do, and that's why I enjoy it.
When you were 6 years old, I remember when I was 6 years old, I took apart a pocket watch. And I was excited because I could take it apart, but I could never put it back together again. So how did you go beyond that phase of your life?
Well, at that time we could get books out of the library, and we started correspondence courses at that time. That went for many, many years, that you asked people, you talked to people, you learned from talking to people. Towards the end, when I finally got my fellowship, you get we Skype courses through England now. So you're back and forth. You're still learning the same way, but now we do it over the internet.
You have a special fellowship. What kind of an organization is that?
That's the British Horological out of Cambridge, England. In the States, it's equated to a doctorate, but I'm not really a doctorate. It's a fellowship. You have a learning that you completed, so that you know the courses. And we don't like to call ourselves expert, because when you're an expert, then you stop learning. But you just have learned. You've gotten to a point that you can be trusted.
Doran, I don't want to insult you, but what's so difficult about fixing a clock?
There's nothing really difficult, but you have to understand it. You have to understand all the metal that's into it. You have to understand why you have certain clearances, why certain things run the way they do, what lubrication does, what lubrication will destroy. You can actually over-oil a clock and have it stop. So you just have to understand. There's nothing truly difficult about it. It's having an analytical mind that you can look at it and say, I know what's wrong with this. I can figure this out.
Are most clocks constructed the same way? Or is the mechanism roughly the same?
In theory, yes. You have a time train, which only needs 3 gears, but several of them have up to 10. Then you have, that's called the going train. Then you have the chime train, which is your 15-minute melody. And then you have your hour chime, which is a lot of clocks will call on the half hour and the full hour, and they'll count. So in theory, yes, they are constructed the same idea, but there are nuances with every manufacturer and how they've made it.
You have some interesting clocks. We're standing among some of them right now. First of all, how many clocks do you have in the store right now?
Right now for repair, we have 137.
And the ones behind us look like they're interesting. Of course, they're different. Maybe they're unique. Tell us about some of them.
There's one that we have from 1788. It's an English piece, which in 1788, for an English clock, that's not really that old. We go back to the 1500s, most of them. And I bought that from an antique dealer in London who didn't want it any longer. It's a noisy clock, but it's curious enough that I wanted to keep it. It's called a lantern movement, which is a wooden and a brass movement put together. We also have a perpetual calendar clock, and that one's quite interesting. It's one of the most expensive clocks we have in here right now for repair. It's made in the late 1800s to early 1900s. It has the day, the date, the month, and the time shown on it. We have several cuckoo clocks that are in here that can be very complicated because of all the levers, and cuckoo clocks are not highly engineered. That's something you look at and you run. We have some visible escapement clocks here where you actually can watch the clock ticking. You can hear it, but you can actually watch the escapement. It's called arresting and releasing. So that's what we have here a lot of. And there's also some in here that I keep to show people. We have one Chinese piece that the person thought was an antique when they bought it, and it's a copy, and it was made to be a copy, and they paid way too much for it. But I keep that as education to show people.
I would imagine because of Antique Roadshow, everybody seems to have something like they saw that was worth thousands of dollars on Antique Roadshow. Do you run into some of that?
That is a daily thing. I'm a certified antiques appraiser, so people will come in and they like that knowledge. I'm certified. I work with Sotheby's out of New York, and I'm also on several websites. So they'll see I have that certification. They'll come in with their family antique. Sometimes it's wonderful. You'll tell them they have a clock worth several $1,000s. Other times it was bought at Woolworths in 1952, and I'm sorry, it has no value. But the story is there. And again, you have to be truthful with them when you tell them that.
I understand you have a very active blog system where you have, did I hear 100,000 blogs a year?
That's correct. We have over 100,000, it's called hits, on the blog every year. That's all over the world. We have so many that go through it and that they read it. We get 15 to 20 emails a day just on that blog that are answered. And it's a big growing population out there. And I've become world famous and didn't even know it.
Do people blog your organization because they're looking for some solution to a clock problem, or is it just for general information?
It starts out they want an answer. A lot of people, a lot of repairmen won't tell them an answer without charging them. The blog's free. You can go on there. It gives history on clocks. It gives stories on clocks. It's a searchable blog. I did that on purpose. So if you want to know how to move your grandfather clock, it gives you rudimentary knowledge on all of that. But always it's tempered with call me if you have any questions or email me if you have any questions. But it answers these questions. We get so many from England where they don't like to let information out. The societies they belong to like to keep that close to the vest, but we'll tell you anything you need to know.
If somebody wants to contact you, how can they do that?
You can always email me. It's pineknoll@zoominternet.net. You can telephone me, 724-748-4058. You can just put my name in a search engine. It comes up with thousands of articles on me. So I'm not hard to find. But you can put Pine Knoll Clock Shop in there. You can put my name in there, and you'll find me.
What's the most expensive, treasured clock you've ever worked on?
The most expensive one I've ever worked on was for Pitt University and the Chancellor's residence. It was a beautiful regulator clock. It's called a jeweler's regulator. It's 9 feet tall and has a triple dial movement on it. And that one came with quite a story. It was donated to the university in the 1860s, and the gentleman that donated it gave the story that he built it. And in reality, he did not build it. He bought it from Lothrop in England and put his name on it. Mm-hmm. So you had to tell them that you have to do this delicately when you tell them, but you need to tell the entire story. And it was quite a unique piece at $750,000. So it was very nice.
And I understand you've worked with some Tiffany clocks. What's so special about them?
Louis Comfort Tiffany, before he did windows, he was an interior designer. He designed tall case clocks, grandfather clocks, and they're all 8 to 9 feet tall. So even I'm 6'2", I still have to take a ladder to work on these clocks. They're very heavy. The movements are made by Waltham, a very high-end movement, but they're quite intricate and they run for a long time. But when they stop, they need a lot of work. But L.C. Tiffany did a lot of interior design work, and that's what, you think when you hear the name, you say Tiffany Windows or Tiffany Glass Works, but he actually designed homes first.
Sounds like you're a very busy guy. Do you do all this yourself, or do you have some help?
Well, I do all the clockwork myself. I'm in here about 70 hours a week. We do house calls on top of that, and we drive 30 to 40,000 miles a year doing house calls. So we are quite busy. My oldest son helps me with woodworking. My wife typically is here doing the phone answering. I do not talk on the phone an awful lot. She does all that. But the blogs and the emails and everything else I update and I keep current.
Are there some clocks that you've heard about that you haven't seen that you'd like to see?
There is one. It's actually in New Jersey, and it's a Mcclintock Clock. It's a huge clock like you used to see on the outside of banks. And the gentleman has it. They actually got it out of a junkyard in the 1940s when the bank was remodeled. And it needs a lot of work, and I'd like to see that one. I'd like to have it here and restored and put in the front of the shop. So we're working with them to see if we can get that.
Many people in any field will say things aren't the way they used to. Are they making clocks today the way they did years ago?
No, they're not. The plates on a movement, which the front and the back of the movement, used to be incredibly heavy. You used to have heat-treated heat sinks or oil sinks. They're now just stamped out. They're not high quality. The mass production is not there. So we do have some Hermle and some Kineger movements that are very nice, but they're still not nearly as nice as the old ones used to be.
What surprises me is that there are so few of you in this country, it seems. Are there many?
No, there are not many. There are very few. There are a lot of tinkerers, but there aren't too many that actually do clock repair. We want to repair what's in the clock. There are times that you have no choice. It's been bothered with too many times that you have to replace the movement. But the idea is to replace and repair what's in there, not to just trash it and put something new in there.
Doran, are you ever baffled?
Yes. And that comes with the BHI that I belong to, the British Horological. I can Skype in with a question, and they'll actually answer it for me. I very much enjoy the BHI because back and forth communications, they'll tell me what I'm doing wrong. Nobody knows everything. If you come to somebody that knows everything, that would be somebody I'd walk away from because they're not acknowledging their own shortfalls. And I have shortfalls.
Doran, this is a fascinating visit. This is a fascinating shop. I've never seen so many clocks in one place. Everyone seems to be different from the other. And I am delighted to see that you're enjoying apparently every single day what you do. And it's nice meeting you. Thanks for inviting us out.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you coming out to see us. And yes, I do enjoy everything I do. I could not be happier with my life. I'm very pleased.
So if you want to know what time it is, come on out here to Mercer County. Check his website to find out where it is, and you'll see some clocks that'll tell you the right time every time. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.